celebrating 15 years of Young Turks.
Nandan Nilekani and Sanjeev Aggarwal have come together to launch a new $100 million fund. It's called the Fundamentum Partnership. The duo are calling this a scale-up platform and will lead investment rounds between $10 to $25 million in companies that have attained product market fit and have an initial momentum and are looking to scale up. In a marked departure from industry practice, Fundamentum founders will not be charging any management fee or carried interest. Let's now go right across to Nandan Nilekani and Sanjeev Aggarwal, who join us all the way from Bengaluru for this Young Turk special conversation. Gentlemen, appreciate you joining us here on the program. Nandan, let me start by asking you, what brought you and Sanjeev together to launch Fundamentum? I mean, Sanjeev has been investing via Helion. You've been investing as well. Why the decision to come together to launch a new fund?
Well, Sanjeev has been a veteran investor, very successful with Helion. My investment history is only in the last 3 years when I invested in a few startups. But increasingly, both of us have felt that while we now have a thriving startup economy with lots of angels and startup funds and Series A funds launching many companies, the real challenge will be how to scale up these companies. And we were reminded that, he had been at Dutch, which was later on sold to IBM, and I had been at Infosys. And we had seen what it takes to take a company from small beginnings to multi-billion-dollar size. And, we have seen those companies in India like Infosys, like Wipro, like Kotak, like Airtel, HDFC Bank, all companies that began in a small way and became large. So we thought that the real value add that we could do was work with a few selected companies and entrepreneurs who were willing to look at this as a long-distance race and grow them to become companies to last. That's what drove us to create this scale-up coalition.
Okay, a scale-up coalition, I like the sound of that. But Sanjeev, you say that Fundamentum is a platform created for entrepreneurs by entrepreneurs. Besides the fact that you're obviously going to be investing a fair amount of money, what do both you and Nandan bring to the table when you start to invest in these companies?
I think, Shereen, a few things. One, we feel that capital is really a commodity. And what we bring to the table is experiential learnings of having built scale institutions and having invested in scale institutions, especially people like Nandan, who have, I think, played this entrepreneurial journey twice over with Aadhaar and with Infosys. One really can transfer those learnings, and typically we found that there are 2-3 areas where wheels come off when companies try to scale. One is how to put together the right organization design and leadership team. 2, how to navigate inflection points to acquire or to get acquired, when to raise the next round of capital. 3, building a corporate culture which becomes the scale platform. So I think these are the learnings that we would like to transfer to the younger entrepreneurs. And it's not only us, actually it's also the fellow entrepreneurs who are investing in our firm, and also the rest of our team. The 2 people who have joined us, Ashish and Prateek, have also been entrepreneurs themselves. So the entire DNA of Fundamentum is people who have been entrepreneurs, and therefore we can empathize on what it takes to build a scale company.
Okay, I'll come to the inflection points that we're seeing in the Indian startup ecosystem in just a bit, taking off from where you left off, Sanjeev. But if I could get more details on the fund before we move further. In terms of the initial corpus of $100 million, is a large chunk coming from both you and Nandan. Nandan, would you like to take that?
Yeah, we have, the fund is $100 million with an option to actually double it to $200 million in the coming months. And about half the fund has been raised already, and Sanjeev and I are also putting in a substantial part of the fund because we want to make sure that we participate in a big way. And as we said, we are not taking any anything out of it. We want, we don't want to make any money from the fund itself, but we want our investors to get the same level playing field with us. And we already have commitments from 5 or 6 other entrepreneurs who are putting in different amounts of money into the fund. So that's where we are. We are launching today. Yes, we also have one HNI from abroad, but the others are all Indian entrepreneurs. And we are launching today, and our team of Ashish and Pratik are on the job of making a long list of companies, and we hope to shortlist them over the next few months and make our first investment.
Sanjeev, you talk about the need to want to build local champions, specifically in the technology space, and the companies that are solving unique Indian problems. I mean, that's a fairly wide ambit. So can you break it down for us in terms of what the focus areas are likely to be for Fundamentum as you go about shortlisting the companies that you're going to invest in?
Yeah, actually the ambit indeed, Shereen, is pretty broad, and we are not going to be sector specific. We are going to participate around both the themes, domestic consumption going digital. So a good example would be Helion's investments in companies like Big Basket, which is solving a unique problem to India. So finding business models of that variety. And the second piece would be the traditional leveraging India's intellectual capital to serve global enterprises. So those are the 2 themes that we will play with. And our belief is that India is going to be a $1 trillion digital economy. And many sectors will get disrupted. So we will take a very industry view, which is getting disrupted by technology. And you've seen this to happen to retail, it's happening to travel, to transportation. And I think some of these sectors will go into the next iteration, where verticals will emerge, and some sectors we will see horizontals in areas like logistics. So that's how we are thinking of the fund construct.
Okay. Nandan, Sanjeev said that the fund is not going to be sector specific, but if I were to look at the kind of companies that you have invested in and the kinds of companies that Helion has invested in, I mean, Helion, Sanjeev spoke about Big Basket, Make My Trip, Shop Clues. The 2 of you together have invested in RailYatri.in. So give us a sense of what the learnings have been, at least personally for you, from the investments that you've made across a bunch of companies, from Juggernaut Books to Mobile, etc. And what's that taught you about the kind of companies that you would now like to invest in?
Well, I've had a very interesting journey in investing in the last 3 years, and as you mentioned, Rail Yatri is transforming the rail experience for millions of Indian travelers. Sedimac is doing next generation electronics and smart ignition for bikes and diesel pumps. And Mobile is addressing the cost-conscious mobile provider. Juggernaut is doing next-generation books. So obviously, they're all interesting things that are India-specific, applying technology to solve India's problems. And so it's been a very good experience for me, though my investment experience is only in the last 3 years. But the lesson that at least I took away from this is that the next stage of India's startup world is going to be how to make sure that all these companies scale up and become successful in a sustainable manner. And that is something which we have learned, the old-fashioned way, which is to put our heads down and work day in and day out and build a company, build sales, build marketing, build a leadership team, get great HR. It's old-fashioned, but that's the way we think companies have to be built. So we want to select among all the Indian entrepreneurs those who have this vision of creating a transformational business, and then working with them, coaching them, giving them the right inputs so that they create the next generation of companies like an Infosys, a Wipro, a Airtel, a Kotak Bank. So that's the thing. It's about giving back to create long-term plays.
Sanjeev, Nandan here is talking about giving back. I said that a lot of this sounds like the two of you are trying to pay it forward. So I would imagine that this is patient capital. But, what is the kind of returns visibility that you're working with for Fundamentum?
So, Shereen, our belief is that one should focus on the input and the output will take care of itself. So I think we want to make sure that we build enduring companies with speed and at scale. And if that happens, our belief is that we will deliver superior returns. So it's not an initiative which is going to shortchange investors on returns. It's just that founders are not taking any economic interest from the fund. And our participation will come through our own capital and not through any fee or carried interest, which is the conventional model. And going back to your prior question that you posed to Nandan, I think in last decade, I have personally found that when large markets and an early mover advantage backed by a founding team which is very customer centric, I think produces winners. And we've seen this in Make My Trip, Shop Clues, Big Basket, where they've taken on global players in these verticals and yet held on their own. And one of our observations during this decade-long stint that I had, and Nandan, of course, through his years in investing, is that Indian entrepreneurs tend to be very focused on growth, but lacking on efficiency and foundation. So growth with efficiency makes profitable growth, and growth with strong foundation makes it sustainable. So our mantra is really speed, scale, and sustainability. And that's how we are thinking of this fund. And to your question, do we have patient capital? Indeed. Our fund tenure is more than a decade. And all the institutions and fellow entrepreneurs that we are selecting, they align with this theme, because our belief is that in India there is a lot of friction in building a business. It's always 2 steps forward and 1 step backward. So it's not a linear journey. So it does take 10 years to build a useful franchise, the names that Nandan mentioned. So we do want to be hand-holding entrepreneurs for long haul, and we want to invest in select companies every year, so that our energies are not dissipated across
So how many would you typically want to invest in a year, Sanjeev?
2 or 3 companies in a year, maybe 10-15 companies over the life of the fund is what we are thinking. Between $10 to $25 million round size, Series B, Series C.
Celebrating 15 years of Young Turks.